Hello and welcome to another episode of SoFly. My name is Mitch. Of course, we've got Aldo.
Hey, everybody.
And Yilma's got a migraine, which happens sometimes to him. It's like his thing. It's like connected to his back and his head, and he's just had migraines ever since I've known him. So he's out. We're praying for your speedy recovery, Yilma. Hopefully you feel better.
It definitely is connected every time we, record a podcast. He's like, oh, God, I got to talk to Mitch and Aldo again.
Yeah. Oh, I think I feel a migraine
I feel a migraine coming on.
Oh, man. But yeah, so Yilma is not with us, so it's Aldo and myself here today, and we're excited to be back here and record another episode. Got a little green tea going. You like my new mug? Check it out.
Whoa.
Kind of sick, eh?
For everybody watching on YouTube, it's a pretty sick mug.
Pretty sick mug. I got it in Quebec. But yes, we're excited to be chatting because we've got a guest on the show here who we've wanted to have on for a little while now, and he's a wonderful fella. Ethan, I almost said Elfin. Ethan is the community marketing manager for Redington and Rio products. His fishing career has spanned from guide to shop dog to waiter model and to competitive angler. Originally, he's from upstate New York, and his roots were planted in the Catskills on the Delaware River and the tribs of Lake Ontario, as well as small spring creeks and freestone streams in central New York. And when he's not out on the water, you can find Ethan at a cocktail joint, a coffee bar, or trying to rock climb somewhere. And I've been seeing all your rock climbing recently on Instagram, and you're looking like you're getting pretty good. Welcome to the show, Ethan.
Thanks, you guys, so much for having me.
Of course.
Just want to say we could rename this Three White Guys with Beards.
True.
Maybe Yilma was just intimidated by all the beards.
He's got a pretty good beard, man.
He's got a good beard.
Okay.
Beard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We first met Ethan, in, I would say, January 2022, just as the pandemic was, well, at least, Canada anyway was definitely in more lockdown than the States. But anyway, neither here nor there. Ethan supported our very first trip to the Bahamas, and, we've been working together ever since, and, it's obviously really cool to get to try out lots of gear, but I think, Ethan, what you've done really awesome for us is give us stuff for giveaways and support our educational days with BGOW and Men on the Move and our conservation efforts. So, Ethan, it's awesome to have you on the show because you've been helping us out a lot over the last year, and you've got such a cool backstory that I think people need to hear about.
No, thanks. It's been awesome working with you guys, and my title is community manager, and you guys are doing such a great job with Toronto, and it's just awesome to see the evolution of anglers in Toronto and the amount of people you're getting into sport and attracting into the sport. And my biggest thing is that fly fishing shouldn't be intimidating to anyone. So anything we can do to get more people involved, then it's a win.
Well, Redington's doing a great job of that in general, and Rio. I mean, all of Fairbank's brands, but yeah, super stoked to have met and gotten to fish together in Montana, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, and touch on all kinds of stuff in Rochester. And
we have roots. We fish Lake Ontario tribs. You fish different Lake Ontario tribs, so it's cool. It's cool. There's a lot of ground to cover today for sure.
Yeah, but
Sweet.
where are you calling in from first and foremost, Ethan?
Yeah, so I'm actually at the Farbank office in Seattle. Our original office was on Bainbridge Island, which is just a ferry ride across the Puget Sound.
So cool.
Yeah, they opened a Seattle office just because a lot of people want to live in the city, obviously, and not necessarily on a small island.
Right.
So yeah, 2 years ago, I moved out here from upstate New York because of this job. The West is super cool. I'll never go back. Sorry, East Coast. No offense. I grew up there. I love it. No offense to you guys, but
The West is cool, man.
I can go up on our roof here and see Mount Rainier on clear days, and there's just nothing like it.
It's tough to beat that. Yeah, it's pretty fair. I mean, especially from being out east, our area of the east, because it's it's like. It's kind of scenic in a different way, I think you've got epic scenery there, whereas here it's sort of more homey, quaint scenery.
Yeah.
A little more hilly, equally
hilly.
green.
Yeah,
equally green. You have to appreciate the deep, dark woods if you're from where we're from, like the Adirondacks and Northern Ontario.
Yeah,
that's the
Tannic water everywhere.
That's what makes it special here.
Yeah, totally.
100%.
Well, why don't we go back then to where you started to get into fishing then? So, instead of, we'll kind of track the whole thing, but how did it begin out in New York all those years ago?
Yeah, I have an older brother, like going way back, who's 10 years older than me. His nickname in high school was Orvis because he always got the Orvis catalogs back in like the 90s.
Hilarious.
Um,
I love
I've
those
been
things.
fishing, yeah,
The J.
I've
Peterman
been,
catalog of fly fishing.
I like very vaguely remember those, like
Oh man,
very, very
no, they're like
vaguely.
burned into my brain, man. I love those
Nice.
things.
Um, yeah, I was spin fishing. I saw him like get into it a little bit, so I asked him to take me out. So he like handed me a rod in the middle of this overgrown river and was like, "Good luck," and proceeded to like leave me and catch fish. Um,
Nice.
and then just started to kind of get into it in my own. Found the competitive scene because I was like, I suck at fishing. I want to learn more. Like, how do I get better? I
Right.
went and judged a tournament, got into that, and since then it just, kind of blew up from there. To
Mm.
working at a shop to guiding and all that stuff.
How does one judge a tournament before being a competitive angler?
Yeah, like back in the day, they now it's like competitors judge other competitors and
Okay.
score everything. Back in the day when it was like kind of just starting in the US, for big tournaments, they'd try to get volunteers to like take the actual scores and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But now, like who has time to do that? And it's very nerdy and it's like a very small group, so we just judge each other most of the time.
Nice. Yeah.
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 But yeah, I saw
Competitive.
those guys catch like 30 fish in an hour, and I was like, whoa, there are
Yeah.
different things to learn.
Yeah, exactly. It's like competitive angling is. It's funny that you almost like you started in competitive angling as a way to kind of learn more about the sport, because I think competitive angling could be kind of intimidating to people starting out.
Yeah, no, totally. But that group, like early on, and I don't think there's as much of a misconception now as there used to be, but early on, it was very looked down upon. Euro nymphing was like the worst. Now, Euro nymphing is like second or third best-selling rod for a lot of companies.
Right.
Um, But the thing that attracted me to it is everyone was super nice and like people were willing to share information and teach me things and show me their favorite dry dropper setup and like how to fish different things. And
Yeah.
that's just what always attracted me to it. And I still have tons of friends in that realm.
Yeah. That's cool. No, it's super
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so then from there, how did it sort of grow, and when did you make your way out west?
Yeah. So from there, ended up moving to Rochester with a former partner and started working at the Orvis store there, and
Hmm.
then started guiding as well locally and like in the Catskills a little bit, hosting trips, doing some tributary stuff.
Yeah.
And then randomly, I just saw this job post came up, and like this, I knew this is like what I always wanted to do. So I had done a lot of grassroots like marketing and kind of learned how to do entry level marketing stuff there. And I've always been an English major and a writer. So yeah, I applied for the Farbank job, got it, moved 3,000 miles with a U-Haul, my truck, a dog, 30 houseplants, and now we're here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, how long did you guide? How long did you guide for? Like, and it was only guiding in and around Rochester, kind of thing.
Yeah, like I did some trips and like some individual trips in the Catskills. I was just
Hmm.
gonna start being like a full-time tributaries guide as I was leaving. My first year I maybe did like 20 trips, my second year maybe 40 to 60. So not a full-time guide necessarily while
Mm.
working in the store, but yeah,
Right. And then while you're working for Orvis, I mean, I'm going off of you mentioned it in your cheeky bio, but like
yeah,
you are the waiter model for currently for Orvis waiters while also working at Farbank. So were you?
yeah,
I know you were working at that actually that Orvis store in Buffalo is pretty awesome. And
nice.
is that the one you're working for? Or you're working for a different one,
Rochester.
the Rochester store. So
Yep.
and then did you work at corporate Orvis at all, or did that feed into that at all?
No, I just ended up doing like a shoot for them, like out of nowhere when I was on the Delaware
Oh,
River hosting a
gotcha.
trip. They're like, "Hey, we need someone to do this early morning modeling," and they asked me, and it's like, "Cool."
It's
Little did
awesome.
I know I'd still be in ads 4 years later while working for their biggest competitor.
They come up sometimes on my feed. I'm like, oh, yo, it's Ethan.
It's
It's awesome.
Ethan. That's awesome.
Yeah. My
Uh,
mom will go to like the Orvis store in Manchester and like take pictures of me next to posters in the Manchester store. It's
That's
super
awesome.
nice.
embarrassing. Thanks, mom.
Yeah, man, that's what moms are for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, so what? When you moved out west, then what were like? Had you ever been out west before, or was this like your first time?
I'd been to like LA a little bit,
Okay.
because I went to soccer camp there, and my brother
Ooh.
lived there for a little bit.
Hmm.
But no, this is my first time out west. I came out here to look at apartments one weekend, then I just was like, cool. That was 3 days in Seattle. I'm like, looks cool, and then moved. So yeah, I knew
Good.
nothing about the West fishing. I mean, I knew like what everyone else knew, but
Yeah. 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 You
And
went to soccer camp in LA?
yeah,
with
That's
David
crazy.
Beckham?
no, no, no,
Damn
no.
it.
Damn it! Sounds like
Yeah,
that is where David Beckham would be playing soccer. Is LA? I think.
Well, I
you
mean
know?
that's where he started his North
yeah,
American career.
Oh yeah. I don't know shit about soccer, Ethan, but if Yilma was here, he does know
it's
a lot
fine.
about soccer. You could have been, damn it, Yilma,
Damn it, Yelma.
It's
soccer
fine.
cast. Yeah.
Simon was
Soccer.
actually here earlier, and he's a Liverpool fan, and I'm a Chelsea plant fan, and we're playing Sunday.
Oh yeah.
But he just left, or I would have told him to say hi. But
In the very early days of SoFly, so this is going to be episode 149, which is crazy, but Simon came on the show when we were still using phones for call-ins.
wow,
Yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah.
dude. And
Yeah.
which was awesome that he came on the show so soon, but that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He won't remember us, but tell him we say hi.
Yeah.
he does. I just talked to him. He does.
Oh,
He
yeah?
remembers
Oh,
you
does?
guys. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yay. Yay.
yeah.
Dang. Yay.
Yay. Rewinding just a little bit before the guiding, do
Yeah.
you remember your first fish on the fly rod?
Um, I didn't. Probably not, honestly. Like I remember my first real like 20-inch fish.
Okay.
But my first fish was behind like this factory in this town I grew up in, and like this super muddy creek that was way more suited to carp, and I wish I knew about like carp on the fly then.
Right.
So it was probably like a really not great looking stockfish. I don't want to hate on stockfish too much,
Sure.
but yeah, it wasn't like anything noteworthy. But yeah, my first big fish was from like my favorite freestone stream, and I'd always heard about these like 20 to 30 inches that were in there. Found it behind this giant rock, and every time I go back to that rock, I catch a fish in like the same range, which is crazy.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Was this back in
yeah,
the Catskills?
this is Central New York.
Okay.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
like
Nice.
30 minutes from where I grew up, and I had no idea that like this place existed.
That's
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool. You remember your first big fish. I think it speaks to like the almost the kind of angler you are. Because you're, like you said, you went into competitive angling. It's obviously, like guided your life. Like that catching that big fish is now you're out west and working
Yeah.
for a fishing company. It's
Yeah.
cool that it had that effect on you.
Yeah, I mean, not many people like get to say they do what their passion is and like have done all facets of it.
Yeah.
So I'm like super lucky, and like this job doesn't, there are not many of this position in the fly fishing industry. So
For
I'm
sure.
super fortunate.
Yeah, and so for people like at home listening that are like interested in getting into fishing business, it's probably awesome. You fish all the time, and it's like super fun and like not a lot of work, right?
The exact opposite of everything you just said, except it is
Right on.
fun.
Yeah.
But no, like it is funny when you get into the industry, you definitely fish less. The
Yeah.
biggest change coming to Washington, besides like the rain in Seattle, there actually like aren't a ton of accessible fisheries nearby. There's one small stream that's only open for 3 months in the summer
Yeah.
that has like good amount of trout, but because of kind of our steelhead issues, a lot of things are just closed all year.
Right.
Oh wow.
So you really have to travel to like get to a trout stream.
It's funny
Wild.
why I kind of gestured, and if you're watching YouTube, I was like, what? Because I got the same sense. Obviously, Vancouver's not very far from Seattle. It was my first time in Vancouver last fall. And I kind of got the same thing, too, where, like, yeah, you're on the ocean, surrounded by mountains and all the yada, 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 but it didn't seem like fishing was, like, something
Like
that was,
right
like,
there.
right there,
Right.
Which I found interesting because, I mean, you're on the coast,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be obviously,
Right.
like 20, however many years ago, but yeah,
Right.
just tougher times. Like Portland down south, there's a lot more accessible like trout fishing. So you have the Deschutes, and you have all these other streams that are doing a little bit better. Here we have the Yakima, that's like our big blue ribbon trout fishery, but that's 3 hours away east. So,
Wow.
or 2.5, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay, so it's
Yep.
a bit of a drive.
It's a
Yeah.
bit of a drive,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Steelhead aside, is there any other like kind of opportunity within Seattle?
But cool,
And
yeah.
forgive the ignorance.
No, no, no. I'm still learning a ton about the area too. The one cool thing, I love stillwater fishing, and there wasn't quite as much opportunity in New York as there is here. So within like an hour and a half, 2 hours, there's tons of good stillwater fishing if you have a boat, or a belly boat or whatever. I hate belly boats, but some kind of floating device.
Right.
So that's been super fun.
Yeah.
And right down by Simon, who is like an incredible stillwater angler, is a
Hmm.
great lake. So going to fish that with him is cool.
Nice.
Super cool.
Yeah.
When you were competitive angling, so just flowing from the Stillwater thing, did you compete in Stillwater comps or just river comps?
Both. Sometimes they're combined too.
Mm,
I'm actually going to I'm not competing, but I'm going to national championships in Bend, to do some filming and like meet up with some friends at the end of the month. And
nice.
it's on the Deschutes and then a couple lakes as well. Um, I love lakes, so I'm not the greatest stillwater angler, but like, man, do fish fight hard in lakes if they're wild and they're super fun and they just go crazy, especially rainbows. Um, and yeah, my first big tournament ever was national championships in 2015 in Lake Placid.
Oh,
So we fished the
nice.
Ausable, which I actually did really well on, and we fished Seneca River, I think, if I remember, and then like two lakes, and I like won both my river sessions, and then got like last on both the lakes.
Shit.
Oh,
Um,
that's awesome.
yeah, um, but yeah, there's also like all the high alpine lakes in the summer, which are super super cool if you're willing to hike a little
Right.
bit.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Does that can you see you fusing your love of rock climbing or bouldering or whatever with high alpine fishing?
yes, I
Yeah.
already kind of have. I did with my friend Ali, who you guys have met, and my coworker. We did like 50-ish miles on the PCT, and there was tons of cool boulders, but you're
Wow.
hiking 50 miles in 4 days, so we just fished and did that, which was super, super fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like an adventure.
Yeah,
There's no doubt. Yeah. That's cool.
yeah.
Okay. Well, now that we've kind of got a sense of, who you are as an angler, where you come from, where you are now, yeah, why don't we just kind of talk a little bit about, you said something earlier, which was kind of interesting to me, like you're working at a fishing company. Obviously you have lots of insights into like the fishing trends. And we talk a lot about, on this show, where fly fishing has come from, where it's going. And you said something interesting about, just as one example, Euro nymphing rods. You said back in the day, they were kind of like not the thing to use, and now they're like one of the most popular thing. Why were they not popular back in the day, and why have they taken off?
I think, fly fishing is, even within the outdoor industry, is very slow to catch on, and like a very slow moving ship to like,
Mhm.
they don't deal with change as quickly maybe as some other industries, because we're
Right.
just kind of, it's such a weird mix of like, now I feel like a lot more younger people are getting into it because of the fun of it. But
Right.
like back then it was definitely like an old white guy sport. Like if you
Yeah.
weren't 60 driving a Subaru, um, and then, had, quite a bit of money, like you weren't going to get into it.
Hmm.
But like David, our friend at Very Good Fly Fishing, like I definitely view him and like his generation as a future. He bought a cheap rod, lived in the city, just like started to get into it by himself.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, as that relates to Euro nymphing, like 10 to 15 years ago, like competitive fly fishing, people just didn't like the idea of it. And to be fair to them, if I guess if you hear that as a first thing, like it kind of seems like the exact opposite of why you want to fly fish. Like it's
Right.
for relaxation and hanging out and meeting friends and going to these epic places, not like how many fish you can catch and competing against other people.
Yeah.
Um, but that whole thing too is like you're really competing against yourself, not other people when you do that.
Hmm.
So anyways, with back to Euro nymphing, like all that stuff was super frowned upon. Like blogs, I got called all these things on blogs back in the day when I talked about it,
Yeah.
when those were a thing. Someone
Yeah.
wanted to fight me once, and like I've never been in a fight in my life. I have no interest in that.
I love
But
that
like
that's the
people
one
weren't
fight in
willing to
your
talk
life.
about it.
The one
Yeah,
fight in your life would be over your own nymphing.
yeah,
It's like,
I'm
over
gonna
fishing.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
if I see a tight line on my river,
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
kick
yeah.
your
kick your
ass.
butt.
It's dead serious. Like
Yeah.
cider people. So yeah, it's just like the older generations not catching on. And then when I was working in the store, uh, it was all those same people who hated it who are coming to buy the rods in the last 3 years because they just see
Right.
how effective it is.
What was it about? Just something, it was just because it was new, like change, or maybe like was there something about the technique that threw people off? The fact that you can catch so many fish?
I
You know what I
think
mean?
I think there was like a little disbelief that people were catching that many fish. I think
Right.
it's because you're not back then necessarily using the fly line. Was it really fly fishing? Where
Right.
now, like in competition, you actually have to have fly line in your rod for it to count,
Hmm.
and that kind of stuff. Um, and then yeah, people are just adverse to change. They've done this thing a certain way for 40 years. They see someone come in and do it differently, and they're just intimidated or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. So now it's like Euro nymphing, and I'm just using Euro as an example because it's like relatively new-ish, and I think it's like it's kind of a cool way to like, it's a good like metaphor almost to just look at how the industry might be changing, and that's why I want to talk to you about it because you're the industry pro. Like, you know, why is Euro nymphing picking up now, and who are the people doing it? You mentioned obviously a lot of those older people now that were like, bashing it, but like, is it a sign that there's like the industry is changing for the better? The fact that something like Urinum thing's taking off.
Uh, I think it's just a technique that's been adopted, and I think it's at like its peak at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know that it'll ever really take off anymore. Like if competitive angling had really taken off, I could have seen it going a different direction, but
Hmm.
it's just so boring to watch unless you're like a mega nerd.
Right.
Right.
Just like,
It's almost more interesting to talk about than it is to watch
Yeah.
yeah,
because you can go down the
exactly.
rabbit hole of like leader setups and you
Right.
know
Yeah.
fly design,
Technique.
fly weight, design,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and especially when it
Yeah.
comes
Yeah.
to stillwater angling, like I am also a poor stillwater angler, at least for trout. So, like, I think there's a lot for me personally to learn there with like
Hmm.
sinking rates and fly design and leader setup, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to me like how much fly fishing has changed over the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy, man. Like even stuff like Euronymphing or just like the versatility of products that exist for so many different types of fishing.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool, like it's great. Redington's obviously doing a great job catering to it, of course.
Trying. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, what I think is cool is like I think Ethan, you said some. I think you when you said it's like it's another it's a great technique. Like it's past the point of I want to say a fad, and now it's just like something that you can
For the
choose to
arsenal.
do or not. Yeah, it's like a I don't know, like it's like having a pitching wedge in your golf bag. I don't golf. I don't know what that means, but like you know what I mean. Like it's like
Totally.
having like I'll bring if I can like if it's not too much of a pain in the ass like I'll bring a Euro rod and a streamer rod and a, or a rod that can do dry flies or something. And then that way I know I've got, obviously privileged to have multiple rods in my life, but like, um, but if you can, like, it is cool
Yeah.
to know that, or even if to know the leader setup. I don't know. I don't know where I'm
Yeah.
going with this. I think what I'm saying is like, it's interesting, I guess to touch on both your points, like, yes, Mitch, it's cool to see how, this obscure thing exploded and then kind of turned into a fad that people made fun of, but now it
Yeah.
seems to be leveling out to something where it's like, oh, it's just it's a yet another technique.
Well, and like fly fishing in general, right? Like fly fishing in general is just like kind of so different than it was, right? Back in the day when we all worked in shops, even.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
worked in a shop in my teens. Mitch worked in a shop in his teens, and
Yeah.
like when a bass line came out, that was like paradigm shifting.
Or when like that shark skin fly line came out, it was like,
Yeah.
whoa, what? And then people cutting their hands on it. It's like, this is crazy.
I remember selling, yeah, that stuff was difficult, but
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember like first picking up like an airflow line with the like the ridge line, like that
Yeah.
was all that kind of stuff was really cool, you know.
Fly fishing innovation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Um
think the accessibility has like gotten so much greater since when I started and like
Yeah.
how like when I started I was like ready to quit because I hated the books on fly fishing. Like I couldn't get anyone to take me.
Right.
YouTube wasn't really a thing when I started. Like there was very
same,
little
yeah.
information. And
Hmm.
now like you can just go online or like fly shops are much better at dealing with different types of people. Which is sad to say that they used to have a hard time doing that.
Hmm.
Um, but like it's just become much easier and for the better. Like everyone should be able to do this if they want to do this.
Totally.
Totally. Yeah.
Um, now that there is a bunch of content and you are a community manager, maybe first, what does a community manager do for those that don't know? Second, like what do you value in content? Like not only just for Redington and Rio, but like in your own life, like what do you find useful, like
Sure.
content to consume, like
Um, I'll start with the content thing because that's I think a little easier.
yeah.
And then I'll go back into like what I do. I don't know. I am always looking for people doing things differently or like um, maybe attracting like a different crowd than's normally endemic to fly fishing. So like David Gravitt is like one of our ambassadors we work with, who's a great example. Like pro skateboarder, super gnarly dude. Um, like not, I don't think generally fly anglers see themselves as like skateboarders that often or like that alternative crowd.
Yeah.
Um, so whether that's it or someone like Demisha, who's just building a community in Toronto and bringing in a whole new group of people that
Yeah.
maybe weren't comfortable with fly fishing before. So I personally like in content and just in people, I look for people doing things differently. And whether that is, attracting a new group to fly fishing or just creating super fun interesting content like you guys, which is why I found you guys and started working with you guys. Like um I definitely don't, Rhea, it's weird splitting between brands because they have very different voices. Like Redington,
Hmm.
I'm always looking for people having fun who are more interested in the journey necessarily than just the fishing. Like I think it's safe to say like the Redington crew of people that we have on shoots is probably like the most fun shoot crew in the industry. I'm just gonna say it.
It's pretty
Uh,
fun.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
all the people are awesome. Everyone I met has like been really, really great to work with, and that's like the lifeblood of my job and make it what makes it so awesome are the people I get to work with. Um,
Yep.
and then where Rio's a little different, I'm looking for more of like the pro guide people who can really understand and fine tune their rigs and differences between lines, rod, reels, all that stuff.
Hmm.
Um,
Like a more
and
educational aspect.
yeah, that as well, for
Yeah.
sure. Because Rio has a lot of great videos, thanks to
Yeah,
Simon
like
and
Simon's
Chris and
videos are
Wayne.
sick.
Yeah.
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 He is the greatest teacher of all time. Like he is so good. If you ever have the chance to take his class in person, do it. And he is so generous and such a just a great person to be around. I mean, I'd pay to hang out with him. Like he's that fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Speaking about like YouTube not existing back in the day, I remember having DVDs of Simon like teaching me how to spaycast.
Yeah,
You know?
Nice. We
totally.
have one downstairs. I
With
can
that
send it
old
to you if
Rio
you want me to
logo.
watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
I love that logo. I'm trying to get us to bring it back. So.
Well, I'm all,
Yeah.
yeah,
That'd be
we
awesome.
love retro stuff, so no argument here.
Um, Going back to like my own job,
Yeah.
so a lot of it is collecting and creating content. So like working with you guys or David or some of our like Ben Crash Hour just did a shoot for us. So that is like a big part of my job. I run our social media and our email. I also help plan out our campaigns like seasonal, product, all that kind of stuff. Work with our PR, work with like non-for-profit groups for certain things. So you could say like I'm the utility person of marketing.
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah.
do a little bit of everything.
Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's
That's cool.
important for people to
Yeah.
hear this because, like, I mean, well, maybe it's common knowledge now, but when I was in high school, but seriously, when I was in high school in Ottawa, and maybe this is just an Ottawa thing because it's a government town, but they never like a guidance counselor never like put a commercial in front of me and was like, hey, somebody had to write that, shoot that, think of the idea, and those are all jobs, and I didn't know that. Really,
Yeah.
until I mean, I kind of knew, and then you watch Mad Men, and then you got into whatever it is that Mitch Yeoman and I do now, which I don't even really know what it is, but we make ads.
Which one of you is Don Draper? That is the question.
Probably Yeoman,
Yeah. I would. Yeah.
Okay.
Probably Elma.
although he's not.
Yeah.
He's not a sociopath, so well.
I mean,
I guess
That
I'm
is
the
tough.
meanest
I'm
one,
just
so in that regard, I always thought myself as Roger. But anyway, so yeah, I think it's cool that like there are a lot of jobs in fly fishing, and whether you're working for a sunglass company or a rod and reel manufacturer, line manufacturer, like it's not just guiding that you can
Yeah.
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 I mean, there's product management, there's accounting, even though that's like not flashy, but like there's something you're
Yeah.
into where you can work for an outdoor company for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I was like a young and starry-eyed angler, obsessed and wanted to always have a job in fly fishing, like I had no idea this job existed. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
it
It's
is
cool.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's good. Yeah, for sure. It's a good thing to call out. Okay, why don't we talk a little bit about some of your adventures?
Okay.
Because you've gone on some pretty good ones with the Redington crew.
Yeah.
Recently in Durango. I know we talked to David about that last episode, but yeah, where's some of your favorite spots been over the last few years?
So let's see. Back out east, like I'll go back a little bit, definitely like the Delaware River. That place is magical and very special. Just the sheer volume of like crazy dry fly eats I've seen.
Really?
Competed in
really
the
have to
One
fish
Bug
that.
3 years ago. You
What's
should
the
go
One
in like
Bug?
March. So it's like a tournament that
exactly what it sounds like?
benefits, yeah, it benefits the Delaware River Conservation Group. I can't remember the name. Um, but my boat partner, we got like within 15 feet of these two rising brown trout and like pretty still water. If you're not familiar with the Delaware, big tailwater, pretty still, super technical. Late summer, and it's like not exaggerating, you're making 50-foot like reachman casts to get to these fish with like
Jeez.
a 12-foot plus long leader. Um,
Jesus.
yeah. So it's super fun. But my boat partner caught two 20 plus fish in a row on dries that were right next to each other. And like, that was one of the coolest things I've seen. Um,
Dang. The
I'll
Delaware,
save
like, yeah,
one of
I,
my
I could see
stories
I could
for a
see
thing.
Mitch I could see Mitch like
Yeah.
looking up
That
maps.
sounds
cool.
That's pretty
Yeah.
I'm
awesome.
looking up the maps right now. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
I'll send them
That-
to you later. Don't worry.
Oh, thanks.
That
Thanks,
I
sir.
will say, like I think I
Sure.
feel like that's something that's close enough to us that
Yeah.
it's one of those things that we need to experience.
I can
Yeah,
tell you where
totally.
to stay too, which is really
Okay,
cool.
right on.
It's really cool. You can camp right on the river. It's on the East Branch. They have really good food. They have this old sign of this guy fly fishing that's like neon, from like the 50s, which is
Oh,
super
that's cool.
rad.
Oh man.
But yeah, I've always wanted, it might be a Redington trip in the future, but
Oh
we'll see.
shit!
That's
Yeah.
cool, man.
What?
But like you
Oh.
can catch big fish on streamers there. Later in the summer, you can have like 7 different hatches going off at the same time and see 100 fish rising, and they won't eat
Jeez.
anything you throw at them.
All right. Yeah.
Um,
Are these all wild fish or naturalized?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Yep.
Sick.
Actually, I think it was Cornell did a study on the Delaware rainbows because they actually like developed like a genetic difference from normal rainbow trout, and then they can deal with warmer temperature.
Interesting.
Whoa.
Delaware rainbow trout are also like some of the hardest fighting strain of rainbows I've ever come across. They're like
Damn.
more football shaped, it seems too. Like a 14-inch Delaware rainbow, I will take almost over like any trout. They're so fun.
Wow. So they're like, yeah, they can handle higher temperatures. That's really cool. That's kind of interesting thing.
Yeah.
For trout. Yeah.
I'm just looking up that study. Yeah.
I'm just looking at the river. I want to go fish the Delaware. You said March is the time to do it?
I think I saw Mitch drool a little bit right there. March
Yeah.
is really tough. Like it was snowing when that happened, but
Right.
that's
cool,
when you
though.
can get like the big fish to eat. March.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And where? Sorry, what town is this near?
Like Hancock Deposit.
In
Both those towns.
okay, in Pennsylvania.
They do go into Pennsylvania, but if you have a New York license, it's a border water, so you're
Oh,
good.
okay. So go to
Yep.
New York.
I
I guess
see.
we would have to cross. Well, we would cross to Niagara Falls
Yeah,
and make our
and then
way.
it'd be like 3.5, 4 hours from there.
Oh,
That's not that far at all.
it's
Yeah.
not really that far.
Let's go after this.
Okay.
I'll be there.
Oh,
There's a really good ant hatch at the end of this month in like September. That's probably like
Oh,
one of my
shit.
favorites to fish.
oh shit.
Ants. Yeah.
Ants.
That's cool.
When we went to Montana
Anyways.
last year, speaking of trips, was that your
Yeah.
first time to Montana?
Yeah,
Oh, no
it
way.
no.
was.
That's awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
Tough sledding.
A little bit. I mean, we
Hot,
caught a lot
hot.
of fish,
We
but
caught
not
fish.
like what you'd expect maybe from Montana.
Definitely not. Except for when we were on the Missouri, that was amazing.
That was one of the most insane things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Even if we never hooked a fish, which is
Spotting them.
impossible, you floating over that amount of not even fish you want. I mean, they're all fish you want to catch, but like just seeing that much life in a river was wild to me. I don't know what it was
Yeah.
like for you, but wild.
No, it was mind blowing. Like I didn't think that could exist in that big a river and like that size of fish. Like Mario and I had fish like eating streamers like dries once in a while. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Buck, man. That was really crazy. Montana was great. And then recently you did Colorado, right?
Yeah, I first time in Colorado also.
Cool.
So yeah, we met up with Ben and Anna in Durango, and they were awesome hosts. We did a really small mountain stream, like 10,000 feet up in Silverton the first day. That was like so
Super
scenic, you
cool.
couldn't take a bad picture.
Yeah.
Ran into two moose.
Awesome.
And then we went down and fished this lake that hasn't been open in 4 years called, I think, I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But anyways, we ended up on like a party barge, like floating around to different spots and getting dropped off. And like the average size of fish there was like 16 to 18 inches. And a couple people
Wow.
got some that were like 25 to 30. That was
Dang.
pretty cool.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we ended up on the Animus on one of the second probably craziest fishing days I've ever seen, streamer wise. Like, I think we each hooked 30 to 40 fish on streamers and saw a couple 30-inch browns.
Wow.
And Ben and Anna were like, we're lucky if we catch 10 fish here. Like, we don't know what's going on, but it was insane. One of the most insane things I've ever seen. Sorry, getting a little long-winded, but there is this thing I have
Oh.
to tell you about that Animus float. We saw
Yeah.
a trout that was like saltwater fishing. This brown was chasing this little fish up onto this flat in saltwater, and like the little rainbow was like jumping out of the water to get away from it. And of
Yeah.
course,
What?
Gene and I couldn't get our stuff ready quick enough to like cast at it. But that was one of the craziest things I think I've ever seen in my life.
So wait, it was a brown chasing a small rainbow, and the rainbow was like dolphining out of the water?
Yes. And it was in like less than a foot of water.
And how
Just
big
like
was the
you'd see in
rainbow?
salt water. I mean, it was like 6 inches, but the brown was like 25-ish.
Jesus, that's pretty
yeah.
cool.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
That poor rainbow.
I think it made it. I don't know. It disappeared pretty quick.
I think it made it. So basically, go to Colorado is what I'm putting together
Yeah.
between. Like I fished the South Platte
Yeah.
sweet.
and the Frying Pan, and those were amazing rivers. Colorado's
Nice.
banging. It's a cool place.
Yeah, I
looks-
can see
yeah.
why people want to live there.
Yeah,
For
Yeah.
sure.
Big time. And Denver, for your love of cocktails, it's got a great cocktail scene. We are all
I didn't
cocktail.
go.
All three of us are cocktail guys.
That's
Okay.
right.
Yeah,
Sweet.
and
We
Next
almost had a cocktail outing, of course, if we had gone out east, but we both fell ill.
yeah, both
but-
of you guys bailed on me.
Yeah, sorry about
Yeah,
that.
we just didn't want to fish with you. That was
No,
really
I know that.
But Ethan, you were out there recently with Kate and Scotty too, right? Weren't you? You're
Cape
doing
Cod.
stripers. Cape
Yeah.
Cod.
Yeah.
Nice.
I
That looked pretty
forgot
dope
about
too.
that. That was really fun.
Yeah.
Fishing was super tough. We did the Cheeky tournament, helped support striper conservation also.
Yeah.
But it was super fun. We did get some big fish in the last day. The Sage version of me, Alex, who's the community manager, who's from the East Coast, shows up on like the last day to like some random spot and gets into these giant fish. We had been fishing for 3 days, like 2 guides, and like got a few here or there. So we went there the last day and got a couple good ones.
Nice.
But I really like that was super fun, and I've never done that type of like fishing before. So that was really, really cool.
Yeah,
The ch-
yeah, because
The cheeky tournament's unique in that you can't use a boat, right?
Correct. It's
okay,
all
Yeah.
flats or whatever from shore.
okay, and you're catching
Yep.
stripers.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like almost like you're fishing just like what water were you fishing? Like what was the body
We
of water?
did the flats a lot on the north side,
Yeah.
just because it was super scenic, and we found like this kind of like it's not a river, but it's like this part in the flat that like ends up being a channel essentially,
Okay.
that the fish come into.
Mm.
But the people that one fish the canal, uh,
Right.
uh, yeah, westward of the island. But yeah, it was really, I was surprised by the beauty of it. Like it was really pretty, like
Yeah.
super fun style of fishing.
It's kind of interesting
Yeah.
because it's not dissimilar from, well, yeah, it's hard to apples and oranges here a little bit, but like it's kind of cool. It's an island in the same way that, where Scotty and Kate are from,
Yeah,
Cape Breton. Well, they're not from there, but where we went fishing, like it's kind of cool. You're
Yeah.
both like sequestered into this this little island off the end of that's like jutting out in the Atlantic, which is like it's pretty cool. I've never been
totally.
striper fishing. I really want to go striper fishing. That's
Yeah.
me and Mitchie.
Yeah.
We got to get that done.
Yeah.
Highly
Yeah, we
recommend.
gotta do that. Yeah.
Though Kate and Scotty have, massive stripers. Like, I don't know what they're feeding their fish up there, but
Salmon.
maybe it's just Kate. Yeah, I mean, maybe.
No, it's salmon.
No, it
Yeah.
is. Okay.
No, but I
Sorry,
mean like
salmon.
a little bit, but yeah, no, those ones they're catching closer to their house in Lunenburg are just crazy, and they catch them on
Yeah.
the swing on the double-handed rod, which is
Sick.
pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know at the beginning of the podcast we kind of we're like, oh, you fish all the time, travel, and you're like, no, not really, and we're like, oh no, this year I went to Montana,
On
Yeah.
that trip. Yeah.
but like,
We still gotta fish.
but they're not like, yeah, exactly. I mean, like, they're not. I mean, I know they're fun, but it's like it's sun up to sundown work for you. Like you're putting
Yeah.
together, a whole trip forever. You had to wrangle 14 of us last year,
Yeah.
which is not easy, especially when we're all hammering beers all day long. You got to try and find fish in a place that you're not from. Make sure you're getting content. Working through your shot lists, and it's a lot.
Finding a good setting, like that's almost the hardest part is like finding a good background.
Yeah.
It's
But
more
yeah.
than community management.
No.
You become like a shoot producer. Really?
Yeah,
That's
no,
what
it's
you're doing.
definitely work. But it's still like again, hanging out with everybody makes it so worth it because it's so much fun. But like I get to fish here and there, and I take photos too. But there is definitely like a big difference between fishing intermittently here or not worrying about it and like going and fishing on my own. Like it's a very different thing because I'm always
Yeah.
on like when I'm on a shoot versus like you just can't turn off in case like someone gets dehydrated and you have to take them back to the
Yeah.
cabin or like a camera die or just anything can happen.
Hammer
You
dies or
guys know.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever had just a shoot go super south?
No, I'd say like my first one was tougher just because we were trying to get summer content in the winter. So we went to Texas and it was just like hard on the Guadalupe is like a very interesting fishery. But it was just hard to like find a good background there.
Right.
But it was really cool and we had like pretty good guides and like a good crew. But that was like the toughest one, but it wasn't that bad. We got what we needed.
Still good. Yeah.
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 Yeah. No one was eaten by a bear. I mean, if I had gone down in Montana grizzly and gotten eaten by a grizzly, maybe kind of cool,
Maybe that'd be my fishy story for later too.
True.
Well, we lost Mitch to a grizzly, but I caught a 22-inch cutthroat, so win-win.
The blood
Couldn't help
really
him, it
brought
was
up the cutties.
Land,
Yeah.
land the fish or save
Yeah, he
Mitch.
started rising right after. I don't know why.
We chummed with his blood.
Those Montana cutties. Yeah.
Really
Love it. Hey,
Without giving
all good.
away, I mean, any secrets, but like, what kind of switching back to Farbank brain? What trends are you seeing? Like, what are you noticing that's like kind of like maybe surprising you? Like, oh, people are really into bluegill fishing or whatever. We've sold more bluegill rods than ever before. I don't know. Are you seeing
No, I
something
mean,
that's
like,
surprising you?
I think a lot more people are getting into saltwater. I think that industry is going to grow pretty quickly. It's just becoming, like I said earlier, much more accessible. I think a lot of companies are marketing that way on purpose.
Yeah.
Because like redfish are, if you live in that area, they're not super hard to get to, or striper, or
No.
even
Yeah.
tarpon or whatever in Florida. So I think the saltwater market is growing. I think other trends, like I think there is a younger group that's just like not as worried about high-end gear. I mean, as much as like I was when I started. Not to say that like there's still always gonna people are always gonna buy the best because they can and
Hmm.
because it's fun to fish and whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but I think like I'm seeing a lot more people in like the 18 to 24 range get into it because they can afford
Right.
to now.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, back when
and
we were working in fly shops, like entry level stuff was crap.
yeah,
Straight up. It was not good. It didn't
Yeah.
perform well. The lines didn't perform well. The reels were like,
It broke fast. Yeah.
um, that's not the case anymore. Like, I don't think.
no,
No.
like our Wrangler kit, not to like pump up Redington, but that thing is sick. Like the bass
Yeah.
kit performed so well for a bass shoot we just did, and like we all
Yeah.
were fishing those in Montana, and they all did their job great, and like
I think
for
the
a pretty
original is
entry level
awesome too.
rod. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's a good time to be getting into it. There's no
Yeah.
question
Probably
about it.
never been a better time to get into it.
No, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. It's interesting about the saltwater thing. I mean, like, certainly what
sense.
we saw when we were in Florida, like, if you have a stand-up paddleboard and you live in South Florida, not that hard to get. You might not get onto the secret flat that the guides run
You
out
don't
to.
need to.
But like,
Sure.
if you live in Miami, you're an hour's drive from the Everglades, and if you have a stand-up paddleboard, like, you can fish Florida Bay. You just can't.
Sure.
And like, I mean, you hook a 100-pound tarpon on a stand-up paddleboard, it's a different set of problems. But accessibility isn't it. And even when we were in town, like, like all the canals in Miami, they've got like snook and
Yeah.
peacock bass and stuff. So that doesn't surprise me about the. It's cool that's the case.
Yeah.
And I think anglers are like adopting the evolution of like different species now more too. Like
Yeah.
I think and the older generation kind of like stuck to trout, I feel like a little bit, and then went on like the big crazy salmon or like
Tarpon,
or whatever.
right?
Where like I'm super into carp fishing. It's super fun because it's like as technical as maybe bonefish or something, and it's like an hour away, and I can go have sick carp flats fishing.
Yeah.
Um, but I also really love smallmouth because they fight super hard and they'll eat a popper or streamer and just
Yeah.
like mow it. Um, so I think like the species diversity thing has also gotten a lot bigger.
Yeah. 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 It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's going in the right direction. Next
Yeah.
is catfish fly fishing,
The noodle
Like,
fly, it's just somebody's hand.
somebody's hand, yeah, just checking under bags. Euro nymphing.
Oh.
You're is Euro
It's fly
nymphing
fishing.
fly fishing noodling?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
No, that doesn't
Maybe.
make any sense.
kind of.
Does it?
Nobody knows what it means, but it's provocative.
Yeah.
Nobody
That's all we need. That'll be the soundbite for the show. I like that. Okay, why don't we switch on over to Mitchy's Fishies 5?
Oh, shit.
That time of the show.
Yeah, it
Got
is.
5 more questions that we ask every guest, these same 5 questions. And we're going to ask them to you now, Ethan. And the first
Okay.
of the Mitchy's Fishies 5 is, what is your favorite fish and why? If you had to pick a favorite fish, what would it be?
Atlantic salmon, landlocked because that's all I've caught.
Oh.
That will probably be after my first tattoo this weekend. That will probably be my second tattoo.
You got your first
What's
tattoo?
your first? Wait a minute. Hold up here. What's the
What's
first
your first
tattoo?
tattoo?
I'm going to see Casey in Portland
Oh,
from
sick.
his tattoo artist, and
Yeah.
I'm getting like a half sleeve of the 78th edition of the Hobbit book cover. So if you didn't know, I'm a
Sick.
nerd.
You're the,
So yeah,
you're-
just a
you're-
full
Your
half
first
sleeve
tattoo's
for my first tattoo.
half sleeve
Yeah,
of the Hobbit.
That's awesome.
That's sick.
That's going to be rad.
That's gonna be awesome.
it'll be
That's
really
sick.
great. So yeah, favorite fish is Atlantic salmon.
I love that.
Went up to Maine with my brother, catching them on the swing on like those classic little Maine like Mickey fins and like black ghosts is just so much fun, and they jump and go crazy, and
They
it's
go
just
nuts.
awesome. Yeah.
We caught one in Rochester
Oh,
together.
oh yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Sorry, I caught one.
No, yeah.
But no, we ran into one in which was, I was like, whoa, was not expecting that,
yeah.
which
Yeah.
was cool.
They get pretty big,
Which
too.
also,
Like,
I
good
can't
size.
thank you enough for that trip. Like you've
Yeah.
you've changed my fall. Like we're for sure in November going to catch lake run browns, because that was
Sweet.
something that we used to be able to
LRBs.
do on our side of the lake, and unfortunately,
People ate them
people
all.
ate them all.
I
Yeah.
don't know why, but
don't know.
I guess. Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know, man.
whole nother
Okay, like it's a
discussion.
whole other podcast.
I don't think anyone
yeah.
knows
Yeah.
why.
I'm
But,
not
yeah.
saying they're all gone, but it's not
Most
as
of them.
prevalent as it used to be.
Yeah, Western New York is nuts when it comes to that.
Yeah, so I thank you for that. And again, anybody
Sure.
listening in the route, like if you get the chance to catch a lake run brown trout out of Lake Ontario, holy shit, it's fucking
Pretty cool,
sick.
eh? Damn.
Yeah.
They're huge.
Yeah.
They're huge. They're huge.
Well, I've always seen photos of them because I know like the upstate New York things.
see
Kind of,
Amber's
it's always
fish?
been a
Or David's.
yeah. Amber's fish was rad, and David's too. Yeah,
Huge fish. That was so cool.
that is
Yeah.
true. That's what we're gonna do this fall. We're gonna
absolutely,
go.
like
We're
absolutely,
gonna go to Buffalo.
absolutely
Sweet.
get some wang.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. But Atlantic salmon,
Sure.
great answer.
Cool.
Well, all
Yeah,
the more reason
landlocked
to
Atlantics.
visit Caden Scott because the real
know.
thing is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll have to make that happen.
next year.
Okay, number 2 of the Mitchie's Fishies 5 is if you could fish anywhere in the world right now, assuming it's going to be the best trip ever and the fishing conditions are going to be great, where would you go and why? Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world.
Where are you going?
Man, probably New Zealand, just because of the backdrop and the mountains, and I can high five Frodo on my way over.
I was just gonna
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
the
you
shot
have to
in
go.
Lord of the
You
Rings.
just,
yeah,
you just
yeah.
walk around with the half sleeve being like,
I gotta see this
Yeah.
this tattoo.
I
man.
cannot
Like,
wait to
post some
see this
pictures when
tattoo.
you
I
get
will.
it.
I will.
Are
But
you
yeah,
gonna
that like
mountains
long
and shit?
technical dry fly fishing, like in New
Yeah.
Zealand with that
Yeah.
backdrop, like seems
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
One more
Oh,
tattoo
man, of
aside,
course.
are you doing the whole thing in one go? Like, and is it
Yeah.
color?
It's black and maybe shaded.
Okay.
But yeah, one thing. Oh, yeah, one session.
Rock
Rock
and
and
roll.
roll.
Yeah.
All right. Nice.
Okay, number 3, New Zealand. Good answer. Number 3
Right.
is what is your best or favorite, one of your best or favorite fishing memories? One of your best
It's actually
memories.
probably another Atlantic salmon thing. My brother and I
Yeah.
were messing around the Tribs and the Finger Lakes before they kind of were repopulated, and got a couple grabs. We were swinging flies to this stuff, and my brother hooks this like absolute beast of an Atlantic salmon landlocked, and took him like 50 yards downriver, went full river runs through it, ended up landing it, and like we didn't have a big enough net, and that was the first Atlantic I ever saw, and it was just a huge gnarly fish, and he was
That's cool.
stoked, and it was really cool.
Yeah, that's cool. A giant landlocked Atlantic. It's pretty
Yeah.
pretty neat. I remember hearing about those landlocked Atlantics when I was younger. I was like, damn, I could go catch Atlantics
Does-
in the lakes.
Does Saranac Lake
Thought it did,
in
but
Lake
I-
or
Did.
in Lake Placid have them?
Oh, and Lake Placid. I don't know that. Sorry, I was thinking of Seneca, like one of the Finger
Oh
Lakes. I don't know about
Like I
Saranac.
remember hearing that they were in that lake, but maybe that.
I think
Saranac-
Champlain they're in.
Yeah, I think that's what I meant.
Right.
Yes.
That's
Yep.
100% what I meant. Yeah, Champlain.
Yep.
It's cool.
I think they're
Pretty cool.
starting to come back from what I heard, but I haven't in a
Rad.
little while. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, number 4 is why do you fly fish? What do you get out of fly fishing? Why do you keep going back out and doing it?
Well, it's my job, so I have to. Just kidding.
That's a good point.
A
actually, yeah.
paycheck.
Yeah.
Keep the lights on.
I mean, it used to be to catch fish, as we all start, but I think now it's like time on the water spent with people. It's like
Yeah.
just the best memories I've had are like spending time on the water and getting to hang out with cool people and learning their stories and making like lifelong connections.
Yeah.
I love catching fish, don't get me wrong. Like you guys have seen me get probably in the zone a little bit and
Well, you're really good at it.
talk a little shit. But yeah, it's definitely like meeting people and hanging out.
Yeah.
I think that's what.
That's a great answer,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a great answer. I think that's what it is for me too. I don't know if I still like fishing by myself, but
Yeah.
maybe not as much as I used to.
Yeah. Yeah. And like going on trips and adventures with people, like fly fishing doesn't have to be like an adventure trip thing, but like it's really fun when you do a whole trip or adventure just around fishing. Like there's something really exciting about that.
Honestly, even if it's
You know.
like
With friends.
that night you and Nick, Nick's one of our friends that owns a cocktail bar here, and
Right.
he owns the event space we do our fundraisers at. Anyway, he's turned into a good friend, and they had a hilarious story where they like Mitch and Nick were just
Fished a
biking
storm
around,
pond.
fished a storm pond downtown, got a
Downtown
carp
Toronto.
on a
Sweet.
dry on a dry
Tower.
fly.
Nice.
And even
Nick's like, Cass. I'm like, nah,
I'm
that's
not
okay.
standing
I
in
don't
that
know.
water.
Nick's like in it, like up to his knees. It's just like the most gross water you've ever seen. But there was a carp rising. Yeah, that was a good time.
The stories
Yeah.
that in and of itself is an adventure.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Don't have to fly to Montana.
No.
True.
Okay, number 5, Mitch's Fishies 5. The last one is, if you were a fly, what would you be? What fly pattern represents you best and why?
Oh, that's a tough one. I should have prepared for this one a little bit. I don't know, maybe like a gray ghost, just because I think
Oh,
that'd be like a
cool.
cool
That's
superhero
cool.
name too, like the Gray
Yeah, that's a
Ghost.
good superhero name.
Yeah, that is a good.
But like, it's got a little flash to it, but it can be fished in a bunch of different ways,
It's
and
a classic.
I'm like the
Yep.
utility marketing person, and I like all different
Right.
types of fly fishing, and the Gray Ghost can kind of do most of that. I guess it can't be nymph, but I don't know. I just like the Gray Ghost.
Nice.
It's fun to catch
That's
fish
a good
on.
answer.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's ever said that
I
before.
don't think
so
anybody's ever said that either. One
I
day,
don't think so.
Ethan, with the funding from Farbank, we're gonna make a book of.
Yeah.
Sweet.
We do want to make a book one day of everybody's answer.
Awesome.
It'd be sick.
I love
Great
it.
Ghost though. That's awesome.
Yeah.
The Gray Ghost.
Great Ghost. I was gonna say Perdigo.
That's
Yeah.
what came to it did come to my head.
I was like, I
But
thought maybe that would be you because every time we fish, I'm always watching your Euro Nymph.
maybe like
Yeah.
6 years ago it would have been pretty gone, but I think now we're shifting into the mid 30s, so
Into your mid 30s
gotta
Grey
go a little
Ghost
classic.
life.
Yeah. There's a couple. There's a few in there.
Yeah.
Actually, I have like a bonus question here. What's your favorite
Sure.
rod?
Ooh,
What's
man.
what's the rod that you just and Mitch, you can answer this too. What's the rod?
No.
Actually, you already know Mitch's answers, but what's like
Yeah.
your favorite rod that you're always like that I love when I get to use this thing.
Probably like a 4-weight 10-foot.
Oh,
If you want, like, yeah, you can just like on the Delaware, it's like the perfect boat dry fly rod. You can Euro nymph with it. You can like mend indicators with it. You can throw little streamers with it if you have to. Like that was my all-around go-to rod for sure. And my first one was like a Sage X that I got in that
Right on,
before I
yeah.
worked at Farbank. And that rod was awesome.
Do you still
yeah.
have it?
No.
oh
Yeah, I know.
no!
Yeah.
Did you sell it or did it break or something?
No, I gave it to my friend.
Oh, okay.
I have enough rods right now.
Yeah, fair
For
enough.
sure.
Yeah.
They're not hard to find.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I mean, I know
Yeah.
Mitch, you
My favorite rod? I mean, it's 9 foot 8
exactly.
or
It's not the
4 foot 10
bamboo.
weight.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 foot
It's
10
4
weight.
foot
Saltwater guy. All right.
Yeah. Nice bait casting reel on there, yeah.
Next thing he's gonna say he's a center pinner or something, and then
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I got a whole bunch of other problems.
sorry,
no,
center
Mitch,
pinners.
if
All
any-
fishing is cool.
All fishing is cool. Except fly fishing is better, but all fishing is cool.
Yeah.
If anybody
Um,
knows Mitch, he'll say the only rod in the world you ever need.
9 foot 8 weight. You can do everything with it. But I'm not as good an angler as Ethan. Ethan's like a 10 foot 4 weight. I mean, that sounds so much more like, oh, you're
It's very
You're
very
doing shit.
elegant.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
doing stuff with that,
Sure.
That's good. What about you, Aldo? 10 foot 7 weight.
Honestly, I think so, man.
That'd be my
Yeah, for
second
the type-
choice.
I think it's
For the type of stuff we do?
I'm starting to like. I'm starting to really like even lighter, like a 10-foot 6 weight.
Yeah.
10-foot 6 weight is a nice. That's a Great Lakes rod, I think, for around here, like the Great Lakes Tribs. I
Yeah.
think you could swing with it. You can nymph with it. You can Euro nymph with it.
Mhm.
Like on the big head up here for a steelhead, like Euro nymphing with steelhead. It's a great rod out of the canoe for bass and stuff. It's a great rod. It's
Great rod for Stillwater.
It's a great rod for
My
stillwater.
Stillwater rod.
It's just it's a 10-foot, especially for someone who's 5'6" like me, like out of a Watermaster or something.
True.
It's good shit.
It makes all the diff. Yeah.
It does. It's 10'7" or 10'6" is one of my favorite
Sweet.
So there you go.
favorite
there you hear it.
favorite rods.
Heard it here first. The 3 rods you need:
A 10-foot.
2 10-foots and a.
Honestly,
9-foot
if you had a 10'6", a 9'8" weight, and a 10'4" weight, there's not much you can't
covered.
fish
No.
in that
you're
scenario.
covered. Yeah, you're covered. I love it. Well, Ethan, thank you for your time, man. I know you're
welcome.
like
Busy-
you're at work and stuff,
busy
so we'll
bee.
let you get back to
I
work.
mean,
But
this is my job also. I'm getting paid to do
true,
this.
That is
so-
true.
yeah. Hell yeah.
Well,
Hell yeah.
it's the shameless plug hour. If people want to find you personally or the products you
Redington
represent,
stuff
like
coming up, yeah.
where can people find content or find you?
Yeah.
Redington and Rio Instagram. I'll pop up there once in a while. I try not to post too many things of myself, and then Ethan_Law14. I think I just changed it to something lame, but find me.
Find
It's
me.
mostly climbing stuff now. I'm just gonna warn you. There's some fishing, but it's gonna be a lot of climbing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Hey
you know,
man,
it's good.
climbing's good too.
Yeah,
And you can follow to see that new sleeve tattoo.
Sunday.
So get ready for that.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Sunday.
Bring some Gatorade.
I
Love
will.
it.
I'll take any other advice.
That's really just it.
Okay, cool.
It's just
Just
Gatorade,
Gatorade, brother.
and plan to sleep after if you're gonna do a full
Yeah.
sleeve. So
Sweet.
maybe a little cookie at the end of it.
Oh, I love cookies.
Well, you're gonna be
Yeah.
losing a lot of blood, is what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Like I don't know the design.
I'll stock up before.
I don't know the design, but like this one was these roses were my first tattoo,
Okay.
and that was
Oh, nice.
4.5 hours, and I was like, I needed a
Dying.
bowl of pasta after that.
You needed some
For
cookies.
I'll bring lots of food. I'm a snacks person, so.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Rock and roll. Well, thanks
Ethan,
for coming on the
and
show.
thanks for everything.
Yes.
No, thanks for having me.
Thanks for everything.
So this will be out on the 15th of August,
There you go.
Sweet.
episode 149.
Working into
Awesome.
my content plan.
Perfect.
Nothing like
Awesome.
shameless self-promotion.
I
We're all
love it.
about that.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
sweet.
thanks, brother. Have a
Thanks,
good one.
guys.